Unfortunately, the heater's back on here in Oklahoma. It's, what time is it? Do you know what time it is?
It is almost 11, 10:46.
Oh, 10:46 in the morning, and it's 87 degrees already in the shop. So I think by like 2 o'clock or something like that, it's supposed to be in the high 90s. So we're probably going to melt today. Okay, so what did we actually get done on the car? For starters, it doesn't look much different from here. The mirror is not there yet, but it did attack it with some mother's polish, mag aluminum polish, and it has cleaned up really well. Not bad for 60-plus-year-old chrome. So that needs to get installed, but I still need to find a piece of rubber of some sort that I can trim and make a gasket out of. Again, that was mother's mag and aluminum polish that I used on that, and it, I don't know, I probably spent about 30-40 minutes just hand polishing it with a microfiber. So that came out really good. And then one of the other small things I did is I had a set of rallies that are the right size for this car. They're painted black. They just have the good old PD cap on them. Very basic, but I like the look of that. And then you can see a tailpipe sticking out right there. We'll loop back around to that because that leads to something on the list we got to get underneath and look at. And then interior, you want to go to the other side? Yeah, open the door, get in, put a seatbelt on. So we have carpet, we have seats that are bolted in. It's not our bench seat because I think we talked about it before. The bench seat doesn't clear that shifter where it's at. So we'll have to do something about the shifter at some point. But for now, we're going to be running these bucket seats, and we got seat belts. So we can be pseudo safe. A few other little things to do in there. Here, actually, if you'll hold the camera so you can see the gas pedal, yeah, like that. I got, there's an issue with the gas pedal not being set up correctly. All that movement is the result of slack in the cable, and we can't get, well, right now, well, I probably was pointed at my chest or whatever, who knows. Right now, can't get more than like a quarter throttle without the pedal hitting the floor. So we've got to sort out the pedal adjustments. And then if we come around, why don't you roll your window down. We have passenger door glass. For some reason, my camera's telling me I have low battery, but I use an external battery. That's weird. Oh, it looks like that was weird. Anyway, we're still recording. So we have passenger door that is not the same as that hunk of junk over there. We replaced that. And we have glass, and it goes up and down. And let me tell you, the swapping that glass in and out and swapping the wing window from the other door was a pain. But you can see this door is not mangled, and it works. But like you saw, the handle just came right back off, and we have no interior door latch handle either, so we need to strip the door latch handle off the old door and get the inside of that door put back together. At least get the window crank bolted up, connected, and the door latch on. We won't have door panels because I don't have any. But so that's on the list for today. What else do we got that we did? I've still got to do the rallies on the front and get rid of the 14-inch Steely that's on there. Not even sure which one that is. Some factory Chevy Steely. It might even be a factory Nova wheel. Probably is, to be honest. And then, like I said, everything on that list needs to be addressed or attempted to be addressed. Let's pop under the back real quick where I found an issue I wasn't too happy about. And I did the exhaust, or some of the exhaust. All right, we're laying down. Originally, the muffler was just dumped right there out the back of the muffler, and right in front of the rear axle on both sides. You can see the other muffler right over there. And that was fuming us out bad, and the car droned really bad with those dumped underneath like that. So I went online and, well, I started with all my parts stores and everything, see if I could find an over axle hoop. Couldn't find anything local without buying whole exhaust kits or ordering them up. And then on Amazon, I found, which I'll put a link to because it was pretty good deal, an over axle bend, and it's 2.5-inch tubing, and the camera's really wobbly the way I'm holding it right now. Let's see if I can stay. There we go. 2.5-inch tubing, over axle bend, for I think it was like $38, and slipped right on. That worked. Didn't have to weld it. Probably not going to actually weld this. I used a band clamp up there and another clamp right there, because I still think that those mufflers are probably going to get changed out in the future. It's still a little loud for this car, for what I want, so I think I'm going to go with something different. Those are just a 40 series Flowmaster. A little aggressive for a cruiser car if you want comfortable inside. But getting it out from under the car, and then it's just 2.5-inch pipe all the way out to the sides and a 45-degree bend right here. So that worked out halfway decent. Added an extra hanger up there to keep it good and snug and everything in place. But while I was under here, let me back up just a little bit. Right here, I noticed a wet spot. Well, first I noticed a wet spot here, and looked up and noticed a wet spot here. That is my gas tank. So I have a gas tank leak, which is fantastic. It's obviously not a horrible leak because this isn't a huge puddle. Granted, it's enough of a leak to be problematic. So we're going to have to see about replacing the gas tank, because I don't know about patching it or if I can get it patched in time. Fortunately, the wagons that are a 2-row, not a 3-row, so if it's a 3rd-row wagon, it's a one-off gas tank for 3-row cars. My understanding is that it's actually the same tank, but it's rotated 180 degrees from the original, so they take the tank and they flip it around the other way so that the deep part of the tank is towards the rear instead of towards the front, and the fill neck is put on the opposite side from a standard tank. But because this is a 2-row car, which granted I wanted a 3-row, now I'm kind of glad it's a 2-row, it uses the same tank as the sedan, the 2-door and 4-door sedans and hardtops. So that makes it way easier to do a tank replacement for me, because I have, over in that corner over there, I have a spare tank that I picked up off a guy a while back when I was getting some other parts, and he had it, and said, was willing to throw it into the deal for a real fair price. I didn't need it at the time, but I was like, you know what, someday I'm probably going to need another tank for one of these. And so lo and behold, I have a tank to put in there, which works out in my favor. So yeah, we'll come down. What else do I got on the list over here that's notable? Flip this way. Bear with me. Camera adjustment. There we go. So on the list, talked about the gas pedal, talked about the gas tank. Lower radiator hose, this is actually pretty insignificant. It's just leaking at the hose clamp, so we need to readjust that. Same with the fuel line. It's got a leak right at a hose clamp where the hose clamp isn't quite put on right, or just isn't tight enough. Right at the fuel pump up front. The throttle cable and gas pedal, Those are kind of one and the same thing. There's a misspell there. We'll fix it. Got it. Fuel filter, going to put a new fuel filter on it. The one that's on here is kind of yucky. Oil service may or may not happen. That's going to come down to whether or not we actually have time to do it. It does have oil in it, so that might just have to be good enough. Front wheels, like we talked about, we're going to be putting rallies on the front to match the rears. Those will have PD caps on it as well, which will significantly improve the aesthetic look of the car. Radio, I have an OEM radio that I have no clue if it works, but we're going to plug the hole in the dash with it because I've got the dash plate and a radio. And that'll make the dash look a lot better rather than just having those openings there. Alternator wiring, we're going to look into that. I still don't exactly know what's wrong with it, so I don't know if we'll be able to get it fixed, but we're going to try. Timing, we're going to locate top dead center by bringing the number 1 cylinder all the way to the top, make sure we're at the top, and see where our mark is on the balancer. I know it runs pretty good right now, which means the timing is at least in the appropriate range of where it should be within, what the engine will run. So it shouldn't be too hard to determine where top dead center is and if the mark on the balancer actually lines up with the 0 mark on the timing indicator. So we'll check that and then check how much timing's in it. And if we don't have 35 degrees total timing, we're going to put 35 degrees total timing in it because most small block Chevys like to be right around the 35, 36 range for total timing. At least NA motors, non-race stuff, no power outer stuff, boost, nitrous, whatever. That all changes things, but this is just basic small block Chevy. The air cleaner, that air cleaner that's in there, I'm just not a fan. So we're going to do something with that. I got a couple of different options over on the shelf, spare parts stuff. We'll see if we can't make one of those work in there a little bit better. While we're at it, we might change out the carb spacer because this has got I think it's like a 1-inch, I don't even know if you can see it in there right now, but it's got about a 1-inch aluminum carb spacer under it. Not a fan of those. It's probably one of the cheap AutoZone type ones. So I've got a 1/2-inch phenolic, which in the long run is going to be a better solution. It helps reduce heat transfer into the carburetor, reduces the chances of vapor locking or boiling the fuel out of the bowls, which should help with hot start and all other sorts of good stuff. The phenolic is hands down the way to go over an aluminum spacer, unless you're getting into the really fancy high dollar tapered combos and stuff like that are actually CNC billet aluminum and machined out to help dissipate heat. What's in there is not one of those. Okay, so the hood, we're going to change the hood because this hood looks like junk, and I have another one which was in the last video, so we're going to put that on here, and we're probably going to start with that because the way the car looks is more important than some of this other stuff. So, and then headlights, we really need to do something about the way the headlights are, but that may not happen. The event's during the day, we're not going to be out at night, and these do technically work, they just don't exactly point the right direction. So if we don't get to fixing the headlights so we can put the 62 style trim on it and getting them pointed halfway the right way, not the end of the world. The interior needs to be vacuumed, so that's going to be critical. We have to make that happen. Passenger door, talked about that. Driver's door mirror, I showed you what that looks like. We got to get it put on the car, and it needs a bath. So the bath, which has an extra little star next to it because the wife's looking forward to helping out with that, is going to be a good old-fashioned Comet wash, something you only do on vehicles that have crappy paint, but it works really good for lifting off a lot of the surface impurities and getting rid of surface rust and just cleaning them up halfway decent. If your paint is shiny, like that really dirty car or like that really dirty car, you don't do a Comet wash with a scour pad. It'll just ruin it. And then you'll be able to do plenty of Comet washes after that because the paint's ruined. So, on you. So yeah, anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. Not going to be filming all day today because it's going to be hot again. Unfortunately, the heater's back on here in Oklahoma. It's, what time is it? Do you know what time it is? So 10:46 in the morning, and it's 87 degrees already in the shop. So I think by like 2 o'clock or something like that, it's supposed to be in the high 90s. So we're probably going to melt today, which means that the cameras won't be happy to do tons of filming. So we'll bounce around in and out of doing filming and getting work done, so that we make sure our filming equipment doesn't just completely go kaput on us. So yeah, we will catch up with you in a little bit as we make progress on the list. Is there anything we can check off the list already?
Well, if we put the front tires on, then yeah.
Okay, so we're starting with the front tires so we can start the list, get the list checked off real quick. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. Well, we thrashed on the car most of the day. It's blistering hot. Looks like the thermostat on the wall in the shop's reading about 103. It's only been getting hotter. It's about 6 p.m. We didn't quite get everything done that I wanted to really get done. We got some petty stuff done, ignored a couple of big items because they're not, well, they're big items, but they won't kill us next weekend getting 7 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles, whatever it is. Shouldn't stop us from making that trip. Didn't get the gas tank changed out. Didn't get the alternator wiring sorted out. Didn't even start on that. a couple of the smaller projects that I thought were going to be real quick, easy ones, like putting this head unit in, turned into stuff that took a lot longer than it should have. Getting the gas pedal, gas cable, or throttle cable and gas pedal situation sorted out took a lot longer than I wanted it to. We touched on the timing. I threw a timing light on it, just a quick spot check on it, and it looks like we're sitting at an initial of 12:13 and a total timing of right around 33, 34. So we'll drive it that way a little bit first and actually see where it is, see if it wants more timing. The other day off camera, I went through and did an idle mixture set to get the idle, because it was running really rich at idle. And I didn't do that on video because, one, I'm not an expert with Edelbrock carburetors, and two, there's a lot of videos of guys who know what they're talking about when it comes to how to set that up. One thing that I'm a firm believer in is to use manifold vacuum for vacuum advance, not ported vacuum. There's quite a few videos on that. At some point, I might do a video on that because I think it's really misunderstood. It's not something I really understood very well until a little while back and started really doing some research on it to find out what the difference was, how it works, when it changed from manifold vacuum to ported vacuum, which was in the 70s. Something else happened in the 70s as well, i.e. The smog era, which killed smog era stuff, just slaughtered horsepower across the board. Efficiency and engines went way down, and that's also the same era that introduced ported vacuum for vacuum advance. But we'll dig into the details of that in a much more technical video at some other point in time. So yeah, I changed. The previous owner of this had it set up on ported vacuum for the vacuum advance, and which is by the instructions from Edelbrock or by the instructions from any new Holley carburetor. They tell you to hook the vacuum advance up on ported vacuum. Prior to smog era, ported vacuum didn't exist, and vacuum advance was ran on manifold vacuum, and that's when we had 350 cubic inch motors that made 350 horsepower coming from the dealership in stock trim, or 327s making 360 horse, etc. So, and those were vacuum advance, vacuum secondary carburetor setups. So if you could make that kind of power without, and have good idle and a good efficient motor that ran cool without using ported vacuum, why would you use ported vacuum now? Anyway, look forward to that in another video down the road. If that's something you want to know more about, hit me up in the comments, and I'd be happy to tell more. Maybe that video will get moved up in the progression of when we're going to do stuff. But anyways, moving on. Most of what we needed to get done got done. I'm about to move the car up into the driveway where we're going to give it a wash. Realized I don't have Comet, which is unfortunate, so we're going to resort to dish soap, a dish soap wash instead of a Comet wash. I don't know if it'll be as effective, but regardless, the car needs to be cleaned, so we're going to go clean it, and then then we should be able to wrap this up with a final, some cool movie style flyby panning shots of the car and the things we changed. So let me fire this thing up and get it moved up into the driveway. We're going to give it a bath.